Hi, today I want to talk about cooking with wine. I'm often asked if I ever cook with wine, and I say almost all the time, but sometimes I do use it in the food as well. Yeah, old joke. Okay, seriously though, today I do want to talk about cooking with wine and ways you can use it. We'll be discussing marinades, making gravies and sauces out of it. Let's see, using it in kind of a different way as a vinegar replacement, and just cooking in general, throwing it in as an extra ingredient for flavor. All right, so let's start out with the basic marinade. In fact, before that, let's start out with the wines. What you're looking for when you're cooking with wine is something that has a very high acid content. And usually you're going to want a red and a white that you can kind of fall back on, just depending on what you're cooking. Now, the two that I like the best are Pinot Noir for the red and Sauvignon Blanc for the white. Both of those typically are very high acid. If you recall Sauvignon Blanc, if you've had one or had one recently, very citrusy, acidy taste, really sharp, bitter tartness to it. Now that tartness comes from the acid in the wine, and that's what helps for cooking, and especially if you're marinating something. A good example of my use for that is around Thanksgiving time. I will get a big old whatever, put a turkey into it, clean up the turkey, wash it off, the normal things you would do to it first, but then put it in the container and then pour a couple bottles of wine over it. Along with that, I usually add, salt, pepper, seasonings. Usually on turkey, I'll use white pepper. I like to use a lot of my garden herbs, oregano, for example. I usually have basil available. Anything that I happen to have that would work well with turkey, I'll throw in there. Also, might get 2 or 3 lemons and limes, or limes, maybe even an orange or two. Cut those up, squeeze them in, just get it all stirred up nice together. Now, without the turkey, of course, it wouldn't be that great to drink with all that stuff in it, but it does give a lot of flavor to the turkey. So my usual plan is to put it in there and let it marinate overnight, and then pull it out in the morning and throw it in the oven. Now, along with that, though, I usually save some of that marinade back and use it to make the gravy with later in the day. It makes a wonderful gravy. It carries on the same flavors that you've got going with the turkey, just because it's been soaking that up all night, and it ties it all together very nicely. So with the gravy, just do a basic roux sauce, get your butter melted, throw in a little flour, get it stirred up, get it coming together as a roux should, and you can always check cooking channels and things like that for how to do a roux and get some better ideas on it. And then just gradually add in this marinade, and also if there's any turkey drippings, you can add those in as well. So it makes a really good combination and a homogeneous taste throughout the meal. Okay, so that's the marinade with the white wine. You can also use the Pinot Noir, same concept. You want to use this usually with red meats. If you got a steak or roast, for example, those are good. I like to just take a cooking bag type thing, big enough to hold everything. Put the steaks or the roast in it, and then pour the wine on top of it, along with any other seasonings that I want to use as that marinade. And then tie it up, and if it's going to be something I'm doing later in the day, I'll just leave it out and let it be at room temperature. You got the wine in there, nothing's going to grow on it, it's not going to get moldy in a couple hours or anything. And being sealed up like that with the alcohol, that would kill off any other type of thing that might be growing on it. I don't want to get morbid or gross, Ebola, that type of stuff, food poisoning type things. It's safe to leave it out when it's in wine. Now, plus the fact it's going to get cooked. So anyway, going on too much about that. Now, if you recall or have ever seen, maybe you haven't seen them, so you wouldn't recall them, but Julia Child did a lot of French cooking. Well, some of the differences there with that are she would use the Pinot Noir, actually Burgundy, which is from a part of France, and the red Burgundy is made from Pinot Noir. She would use that as a base for things like coq au vin, which is chicken. Now, it's usually the dark meat, the thighs and leg, hindquarters, but it marinates it up very nicely, and it adds a wonderful flavor to it. The other area that you would have seen if you watched much of her stuff was when she made beef bourguignon. Well, beef, of course, beef. That's actually boeuf bourguignon in French, but so you've got beef. Basically, what it's saying is beef in Burgundy. Burgundy being the wine, and the wine in that case from Burgundy, of course, is Pinot Noir. So there again, the Burgundy becomes part of the sauce for your beef bourguignon. Very good combinations there, and give it to Julia Child. Cheers. Anyway, speaking of which, this is a nice little Bordeaux I've got going here. It's not a Burgundy though. So those are a couple ideas for marination and making sauce from the wine, or using the wine to help make a sauce. The other one I mentioned is vinegar. Now, why would you want that? Where would you use that? Here's my thinking on that, and you can try this sometime, is make your own salad dressing. You know, if you want to do a basic vinegar and oil type salad dressing, that's a good place to start. That's pretty simple. But instead of using vinegar, use white wine. Sauvignon Blanc, for example, would be a good one. It's got that tartness to it. It's not quite as acidic or having some of the flavors that vinegar has, but you'll definitely get that bite to it if you use a nice acidy one. So there's a thought for you. Make your own salad dressings. Anything else that you'd use vinegar in? Maybe, you don't get carried away with this, but maybe a coleslaw, for example. Things of that sort. A lot of your salad type, I guess that's a salad dressing too, but you know, a lot of your salad types, a lot of your cold foods, really good for this time of year. We're coming up on summer here pretty quick, just beginning spring, finally. And yeah, see, springtime. Anyway, so there's some thoughts for you. Give it a whirl in marination for whatever you're cooking. You've got chicken going on. Just plan ahead a little bit. Put your chicken in a bag, add some wine to it, close it up, let it soak that up. It helps make it more moist and tender. Wonderful stuff. Just try it, see what you think. Leave me some comments. Some other areas maybe where you've used wine in cooking. I'd like to hear about them. No Jello shots or anything like that, please. That's too college. But anyway, have a good time. Enjoy your cooking, enjoy your food, and most of all, enjoy your wine. Cheers.